Hello everyone. Welcome to the latest episode of the Digital Adoption Show, your go-to podcast for cutting-edge insights and innovative strategies in today's dynamic work environment. I'm your host for today, Nabras Mohammed, Regional Account Director at Whatfix. Today, we are exploring top strategies for successfully bringing in transformational change in any organization. And we thought, who could be a better guest than a CIO himself, who has been driving multiple such transformation across geographies. Today, we are joined by Charlie Valerio, currently serving as a CIO at Aboitus Power, using his deep knowledge in digital transformation to push the company towards new technological breakthroughs. While leading at Aboitus Power, Charlie put his skills to work as the president of the PMI Philippines chapter, making a huge impact in a project management world. This role was a natural fit for him, showing his dedication to use digital changes to improve business strategies. With a career in IT and digital innovation that spans over 30 years, Charlie has been a key player in bringing new technology to different industries. Throughout his career, Charlie has led the charge in digital transformation, whether as a chief digital officer or as a CIO. He has been actively involved in using digital technology to make significant changes in his company. After his time at Shell, where he worked in a global role for more than 7 years and traveled the world, he decided to focus his efforts locally. Starting 2012, he has joined four reputable conglomerates in Philippines, covering various industries like power generation, electricity distribution, logistics, real estate, infrastructure, and telco, among others. This was Charlie's way of bringing his global experience to help the local businesses grow. What a great pleasure to have you here. Welcome to the podcast, Charlie.
Thank you, Nabras. Pleased to be here.
Fantastic. Charlie, our listeners would love to hear from the man himself. So why don't you tell us more about you?
Okay, I think you've mentioned most of them, but yeah, indeed, I've been in the corporate world for more than 30 years now. Yes, I'm old. I'm actually IT by education, and aside from this very short stint outside IT in Procter and Gamble, so I used to work for Procter and Gamble as well prior to Shell.
Mhm,
Most of
mhm,
the 30 plus years were actually spent in the IT arena. And well, largely my work principles as well as discipline are influenced by these two big multinationals, Shell and Procter and Gamble. But I mean, after working with multinationals for more than 20 years, with the last 7 or so years in a global role, I had this epiphany. And that was way back in 2012. And I've actually started this advocacy to give back to the local industry, which is
mhm,
why, as Nabras actually mentioned, starting 2012, I went back to the local scene, joined the local conglomerate,
mhm,
and joined local organizations as well. And it is really with a desire, help not just the institutions that I joined, but
mhm.
the country as a whole. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's who I am and where I am.
I think Philippines also has been growing ever since from a technology standpoint. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Not just economically, but you're right, technology adoption as well. Yeah.
Yep. Fantastic. So Charlie, before we dive into our main discussion, let us kick off this episode with our segment where we try to connect the dots between passion and profession, right? Uncovering how individual journeys shape visionary leadership. So Charlie, is there a passion or an activity outside of work that is particularly close to your heart?
Oh, yes. I mean, you've mentioned about me being the president of the Project Management Institute Philippines chapter. So it didn't happen by chance. It was intentional. So when I went back to the local scene after working for so many years, with the two big multinationals, I got exposed to the project managers locally, and I was so disappointed by the quality, the level of competence, and even the experience. And in fact, in the past 10 years or so being exposed, I probably have literally kicked out more than 10 project managers in projects, even demoted a program manager to project manager because I wasn't happy with that person. I don't want to even mention the gender, him or her. And and even kicked out a few program managers from huge programs. So I was so disappointed, and I said I really wanted do something about it because my passion is really in project management, the discipline of it.
Mhm,
Given the fact that for me, project management is a life skill. It's not just
mhm,
needed in work. You can actually use in your personal life. I mean, I've used the project management principles when planning for my wedding. So that yeah, talk about being nerd. This project, I use it to come up with a project plan for the wedding. So that's where my passion is, and that's the reason why I've joined the Project Management Institute, the Philippines chapter, and ended up, being its president. So that's where my passion is.
Fantastic, fantastic. I mean, that's a unique story. I mean, I would definitely want to hear that more. How you use that in your wedding. Like five wise principle is not gonna go really well with my wife for sure. But anyway, all right. So moving on to the real reason why we are here today, Charlie. Now, I have set of questions that I want to maybe try and understand from you. So can you share with us and with our audience a few successful transformation stories, giving them ideas to run one of their own, right? Like what specific action did the organization take, and what were the outcomes?
Okay. Well, I'm excited to share about this program, digital transformation program, which I think the most successful as far as I'm concerned among the digital transformation programs I've worked on. And this is with an oil and gas retail company. I mean, it's a local company. It's one of the companies in the four local conglomerates that I've actually joined. And this is, I mean, it's a lot of hard work, but it was fun. Firstly, the COO then, who eventually became the CEO, we really meet eye to eye as far as digital transformation is concerned. So, in fact, he kidded me at one point and say, "We're probably reading the same books because we're
Mm-hmm.
speaking the same language as far as digital
Mm-hmm.
transformation is concerned," and that's key. And well, I guess the other factor as well is that he came from the same company where he came from, so we
Mm-hmm.
know how good looks like. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So when I say this, and he said, "Oh yeah, that resonates with me," so that's exactly what we did in that company. So there's really the meeting of the minds, which is very essential. So, and this is the COO who eventually became the CEO. So he was not just talking about it, but he's really walking the talk. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
championing the digital transformation program. And in fact, there's actually one point. It was in 2019, by the way, that I joined them, and we were transforming the customer experience at the gasoline station, at the fuel station. Well, we've been with oil and gas, me 15 years, the COO probably 20 plus years. So we have like 50 plus years of combined experience in oil and gas.
Mm-hmm.
And we both know how to transform customer experience at the retail station or fuel station. It's just that, of course, we have to bring the entire organization with us.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one thing that we've done, which he actually suggested. Initially, I was saying that's too much work. He suggested that we do a skit. We actually show them, how it works at the retail station. So together with marketing, what I did was, the whole conference room or training room rather. So we have a mock-up retail station. We have cars made of cardboard, and we have customers. We had a script even. So we went through that whole process, just showing the organization how it looks like to be digitally transformed at the retail station. And lo and behold, it was so well received because they're able to visualize it, they're able to feel it. Yeah, so the hearts and mind were actually captured. And the CEO then, who eventually became the chairman, was so excited that he wants to expand it to include other programs that were during the time, going on. So, the excitement was there. Okay. Now, that was in 2019 December. Yeah, we showed it to the dealers as well, the owner of the fuel station franchise, and they were equally excited. And of course, there's no such thing as free lunch. So we told them this is what we need, this investment, and they were ready. I mean, they were saying, "Okay, we're with you, Charlie, and we're good to go." Now, we all know that 2020, that's when the pandemic actually started. Yeah. So I thought for a while that it's going to have a negative impact to
Yep.
the program because we did a 3-year program. However, well, as you may have surmised, it expedited the program.
Mm-hmm.
So the 3-year program, 80% of the projects, initiatives in the program, they were delivered in 6 months during
Oh,
the pandemic.
okay.
We were ready. I mean, we were ready with an app. So we were trying to create a super app. We were ready with the concept of the app. We were ready with all this digital engagement at the retail station because during the pandemic, the mandate was contactless. Yeah. And
Yeah.
we've already had in the plan, it's just show the QR code and you're good to go. There's even the credit card. You don't even have to give in the Philippines. I don't know in India, but in the Philippines, it's actually full serve, which means we don't get off the car. We get served by pump attendants, which is I think the same for Bangalore. Yeah, I've
Yeah,
been to
yeah.
in Bangalore. So, we were ready with the plan, and we delivered 80% of that in 6 months' time. And one front and center of this is this mobile app I've alluded to called Limitless. And we did a lot of firsts. First time, and I don't know globally until now, no one during my stint, 12 years or 15 years in Shell, no one ever sell fuel electronically. Yeah, how can you sell fuel electronically? But
Yeah.
we were able to via vouchers. We were
Okay.
selling fuels using vouchers. Yeah. And it was so exciting because there were long queues in the gasoline station during the pandemic. We launched it June 12th of 2020. That's actually Independence Day. So it
Mhm.
was very timely. It was like telling the customers, oh, it's your time to be independent. We have this mobile app where you don't even have to engage much with a pump attendant. It has to be contactless, and this is how you do it. Marketing initiatives, it's done through the mobile app. I mean, it was really very innovative. And in fact, talk about whether it's successful or not. Well, for me, the proof the pudding is when your competitor copies it.
Mhm. True.
And the competitor, our competitors, including Shell, by the way, yeah, we are pioneering it, really front runner. And yeah, I mean, the app, if I were to mention, after 6 months, we had more than 200,000 registered members after 6 months, and almost a 1 billion peso transactions going through the app.
Fantastic. I think the key here is you're trying to solve the right problem. At the same time, you were able to create that excitement, that buy-in from internal stakeholders also equally, which brought the entire company together to work on it.
Yeah, precisely. I mean, it was probably the most gratifying program, not even just among the digital transformation programs I've done, but any program for that matter. So you can feel the difference in how the customers had reacted to it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, Charlie, there is also a flip side to this, right? Like stats indicate that digital transformation have a high failure rate also, right? Often more than 70%. So, in your experience, what are the primary reasons for these failures?
It is very sad. I mean, it's real, but it's sad. In fact, this is I was reading over the holiday during Christmas. This book, it was published. It's published by McKinsey. It's called Rewired, and it corroborates the 70% here. So in that book, is saying this digital transformation program actually delivered only 31% of the revenue uplift committed, and on cost savings only 25%. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's very, very dismal. I mean, very disappointing indeed. And I mean, I probably understand, but I mean, coming from that success in the oil and gas retail company that I work for, I didn't realize that the number is staggering from failure standpoint. Well, for me, I'd like to focus more on what actually makes digital transformation successful, or what
Mm-hmm.
are the key success factors. Of course, from my perspective, if you miss out in one or two of these factors, I mean, it's tantamount to, well, not necessarily fail, but it may succeed, but it's not sustainable, or success is suboptimal. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what are the success factors? I call them the 4 C's. Yeah, 4 C's of making digital transformation successful. McKinsey has the 4 C's as well. They're saying these are the 4 C's of digital transformation, but I have my own version, the 4 C's. It's going to be longer, Nabras, so bear with me on this. So the first one, it has to be championed by the CEO. It's not just
Okay.
led by the CEO. It has to be visibly championed. It's not a passive leadership from the CEO, but it has to be active. The CEO has to walk the talk. And yeah, I've talked about the successful digital transformation that we've done. That was a key ingredient. Yeah, the CEO partnering with me on it, and being consistent with the messaging. Yeah, this is for me the most crucial. I mean, I've been with a company, one of the local conglomerates, wherein the president didn't appreciate and understand technology, but he has full trust in me, and he says, Charlie, I mean, you're the expert in technology. I leave it with you. Yeah, and I was happy. So you trust me? Okay, I'll go. And I have his full support. It's just that it became a cry in the wilderness. So I was
Hmm.
preaching, I was advocating, but you're alone. And it's
Yeah.
sad. It's difficult to progress something as huge as this. And
Yeah.
transformation, digital transformation is not incremental, by the way. So transformation here, it's a change in the way you do things, touching the culture side as well. So it can't just be me talking about it and advocating it. I should have someone supporting, especially from the top. Yeah. So the first C is really the CEO to be championing it.
Yep.
Yeah. Now the second C is having a compelling case for change. I
Yep.
mean, having a sense of urgency for it. And this was evident with what I mentioned earlier. They're seeing it, they're visualizing it, which is a huge thing because the organization must feel the compelling reason why we're doing what we're doing. Yeah. So not just
Yep.
in words, but in that case, in a skit, we did this skit and showing them how it looks like when we're there. Yeah. So the case must be compelling. It's not just say, oh, we're going to be better, we'll be more competitive. I mean, all these motherhood statement, they won't work. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, especially pre-pandemic. In fact, pre-pandemic, it was very difficult to sell digital transformation. Now, during the pandemic, it was a case of survival. So they have no choice. That's a compelling case for change. It's either you innovate or you evaporate. I mean, that was the phrase then. So it was easier, but pre-pandemic, it was difficult. Well, in fact, in the pandemic, everyone wants to go into it, but they don't know how it looks like. Yeah, they were clueless. So they were just copying what the others are doing without being purposeful as well. Yeah. So really being clear about the case for change and make it compelling, having a sense of urgency is critical to making the digital transformation program successful. The third C is actually culture change.
Hmm.
So there has to be a culture change, otherwise it won't work. The mindset change, especially on how the company views failure. Okay, so
Yep.
you've heard about fail fast to learn fast or even
Yep.
fail forward. That's true. These are not just phrases. Because I mean, digital transformation, there's a lot of discovery. There are a lot of unknowns, and it's really educating the organization that somehow, somewhere, it might fail, and you have to accept it. The most important thing is that we learn from it and we're able to pivot quickly. That's one thing. So it's not just failing for the sake of failing, but once you recognize a failure, it's be able to pivot immediately. And that's in fact what we've done with the example that I mentioned earlier. There were failures in between, but we're quick to pivot. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the most crucial thing. And that's a culture change for some companies because some companies, I mean, face saving, you don't want to fail because you want to save face. Yeah.
Yeah.
You continue to charge along. And I've seen the other company. So another company, one of the four, they force the issue because they know there's something there, although there are already signs that it's not going the right direction, but they continue to spend good money in the
Yep.
wrong project and end up, spending a lot of money and the project is actually not economically viable. And they, after spending so much time, effort, and resources as well as budget, that's when you realize, okay, it failed and let's learn from it. But after spending a lot of money. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a third C. The last one, the fourth one is capability, of course. Yeah.
Hmm.
At the end of the day, it's not about technology. It's actually the people. People make the difference real. People
Yep.
still make things happen. But this is not just people on the street joining the organizations. So they have to have the right capability. They have to have the right mindset. They have to embrace the agile principle.
Yep.
Yeah, so the capability and for digital transformation, the technologies that you're employing in your projects are new. So internally, you're sure that there's no one who's competent on it. So you have to buy the capability outside and partnering with the right vendors, another thing. Well, you should avoid vendors who overpromise. They'll say, "Oh, we can do this with data science. This will work like a miracle, and it's a silver bullet," and so on and so forth, without the client knowing that only 10% of the models actually go into production. So it's a trial and error thing. Yeah. So those are the four C's.
No, that's fantastic. I'm gonna actually steal some of those words from you. Actually, one thing that I really loved is innovate or evaporate. I think that's really important. I'm sure I'm gonna steal it and use it in multiple places wherever I can. The other thing that you mentioned was scale fast, right? And that's actually one of the core values at Whatfix. We have 10 core value. One of it is fail fast, scale fast, where try and innovate, learn from it, pivot, like exactly like you said, and try and scale it as quickly as possible. And the final point that you mentioned, which is super critical, technology is to enable people to make bigger impact for the organization, but that capability within your organization, right? All the people that are involved in it, ensuring that they are capable of doing it. That people factor is something that we can never discount in the entire transformation journey. So really great points, Charlie. Another follow-up question to the same thing, right? With such a high possibility of failure, how can leaders identify early signs of troubles and have a mitigation strategy ready for these transformation projects? Like, I'm sure you've had that experience of reprioritizing and strategizing. I think our listeners would love to learn from you on that.
Okay, that's a good question. The thing is, this is where my project management discipline comes in. Yeah. So when you manage a project, you have risk management and contingency management. And there's always what I tell my team, or the project managers particularly, and this is part of project management discipline. You have to have the foresight. You have to be 10 steps ahead. Yeah. So if
Yeah.
something changes, you should know what the impact is. Well, not to the point of being paranoid. So you have to have that mindset of, okay, what's impacted by this and so on and so forth. So the project management discipline, identifying the risk, identifying the potential changes, but that has to be complemented by, as you've rightfully mentioned, the capability to pivot. Because the tendency of project managers, and this is part of the discipline anyway, because project managers are measured by how they deliver the scope within budget and within schedule. So they really strive hard to deliver that. But here it's different. It's like if there is a change, even if it veers away from the scope and veers away from or increases the budget, if at all that's the case, then do so. I mean, if that's the right thing to do. So you have to complement it with that as compared to you continuously return to green. There's such thing as return to green plan. Okay, if you're in the red or in the amber state, here it's like, okay, let's stop that and let's pivot. Yeah, returning to
Yeah.
green doesn't work for us anymore. So for me, it's this discipline of project management that at least for me, it actually helped because there's the other side, which is my experience with another company. They were really driving the culture of innovation to the extent that they didn't put any structure at all because it will stifle creativity. I mean, it's right. But you're
Mhm.
talking about the delivery, and delivery needs structure. Yeah, you can't be creative in delivery. You're
Yeah.
creative
Yeah.
coming up with ideas in the ideation stage. So guess what? What happened to that company is that they've spent millions and millions and millions of course, budget without delivering any substantial output because they didn't put the structure, the discipline of project management.
Got it. So are you saying that when you say project management approach, having those milestones, tracking each of the steps in it, recalibrating the process along the way?
Yes, precisely. So if you're not going into the trajectory that you're expecting, then that's a signal.
Yeah.
It's a signal, okay? Don't force the issue. It's a signal, and let's
Yeah.
reassess our situation. But that has to be more frequent in a digital scenario as compared to project management, where there's stage gates. Yeah, when you do that assessment. But here it will be more frequent. It's per sprint. You do that per sprint, or even within the sprint.
Clear. The other thing that I want to ask, I think you have touched upon this earlier also. So we know that the organization leadership has a significant impact on the success or failure of the digital transformation effort. And you mentioned earlier, like CEOs buy-in is super important. CEO should be an active participant in this, right? So who, according to you, should actually lead these things? Should it be led by the CEO or CIO?
Oh, it's obvious for me. It
Yeah.
has to be led, not just led, but championed by the CEO.
Okay.
It's a critical success factor. I mean, I could lead it as a CIO, as a CDO, but as I mentioned earlier, it's going to be a cry in the wilderness. I mean, the success will be suboptimal and not even sustainable. Yeah. So, even in some companies, they have the CTO, which is the Chief Technology and Transformation Officer. It can only work to a certain extent, but you have to have your CEO and even your chairman to be with you as well, because one financial institution here even had their chairman really supporting it openly and visibly. They're the number one digital bank in the Philippines right now. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
because of that. It's not just the president, but even the chairman supporting or leading it. Yeah.
yeah. So what I'm hearing is these transformation projects have to be a strategic initiative for the organization. It has to be a strategic vision for it to be successful.
Yes, so you're right. So in fact, prior to the pandemic, digital transformation is a strategic choice.
Yep,
It's either you believe in it or not. Yeah.
yep,
So it's not like it's proven to, let's say, double revenue, or it's proven to, let's say, increase efficiency. I mean, during that time, it was very nascent, 2012 digital transformation. So you don't have success stories then. So you just have to believe in it, that digital transformation is a source
yep.
of competitive advantage. Yeah.
And I want to dive more deeper into it, but in the interest of time, I'm moving ahead. So, Charlie, I'm moving to the fourth C that you spoke about, right? More than anything, during any kind of transformation, it's the people who are resistant to change, right? What steps would you suggest to make sure there is an alignment and an effective communication throughout the organization during a transformational change?
Okay. So, well, from my perspective, it all boils down to an effective change management program. Yeah. So, as you've rightfully mentioned, technology you can control. You can manage issues with technology, but issues with people, especially resistance to change, it's different. And there's this framework, which I'm going to share, change management, which really works. I don't know if you're familiar with ProSci's ADKAR framework,
Yep.
and A stands for awareness, D, desire, K is knowledge, A is ability, and then reinforcement. So even post training, post cat over, there's reinforcement, which ensures sustainability of change management. So it's a very holistic approach. But of course, at the end of the day, people will think about what's in it for me. I mean, resistors normally they don't see what's in it for them. So why am I going to support it? I'm going to spend time on it. Yeah. But what's in it for me? For me, what actually works there is to make sure that digital transformation is part of the corporate performance management system, which means rewards and recognition.
Okay.
Or even punitive actions if they don't support it. Yeah, it
Okay.
has to boil down to that. What do I get out of it? Yeah, I'm putting time and effort in this, but what for? Okay, you'll get rewarded if you do. Yeah, which is the case for my current company. It's there. It's an
Okay.
imperative, and even the behavior towards it is being assessed.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. So before we end our discussion, can you share with our listeners top three tips they should surely follow for a successful digital transformation and change management initiatives?
Okay, three. Of course, the first one would be definitely the four C's that I've
Yeah.
mentioned. So,
Yeah.
if at least one of the four C's is not done well, rather, it may not necessarily lead to complete failure, but I mentioned success is suboptimal and it's not sustainable. So it's not going to be long lived. So first one is follow the four C's. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. Second, it's difficult to convince others if you yourself is not convinced about it. You
Hmm.
have to be convinced yourself that it is the right thing to do. You should be clear in your mind why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
So in my case, I have to convince myself, especially prior to the pandemic, where this is more of a strategic choice than anything. And yeah, is it really the right thing? Even though my hidden agenda was, and let me backtrack a bit, one of the things that I've been advocating whenever I joined a local company is to make sure that technology becomes a competitive advantage. Yeah, because I'd like to move IT from being in the backstage to on stage in the limelight. Yeah, so
Okay.
not
Yeah.
supporting actors, but to be players, or
Yeah.
primary players in the organization. So that has been my advocacy. It's like whenever I hear IT as a support, it gets into my nerves when I hear IT as a support. No, IT is it can be a competitive advantage and can be front and center. And digital transformation, I'm seeing it as an opportunity to make technology or IT as a competitive advantage, not ERP, which is just a support in the background. HR system, these are all traditional IT, but digital, you can make it front and center. Yeah, but you have to read up because you have to be very sure about what you want to do and why you're doing it. Yeah. The third one is to externalize. I have this thinking that I don't have the monopoly of all the information in this world, even if you're ultra intelligent. In fact, I was watching this Netflix film and someone said intelligence is not a guarantee of wisdom because wisdom is largely obtained through experience. And to obtain experience, I mean, there are two ways. It's actually doing it or externalizing, finding how others are actually doing it if they've done it, of course.
Yeah.
And you network, you become part of, digital community ecosystem. So, I mean, you have to externalize. Even multinationals, I mean, as I mentioned, Shell. So there was a thing that we're 10 years ahead than the others. So why do we have to externalize? They learn from us. We're not going to learn anything from them. But Shell realized that in 2020, starting that, they were driving externalizations, one of the initiatives. Yeah, externalize, go outside.
Perfect. Charlie, I wish we had more time for this. We have a quick rapid fire round here with three quirky questions to get deeper glimpse into your mind. We call this segment Triple Strike. So are you ready to be Triple Strike, Charlie?
Wow, triple strike. Hopefully, I'm not going to be out just like in baseball. But yeah, I'm ready.
All right, quickly. So, Charlie, what is your most favorite app on the phone and why?
Okay. Well, I like digital bank apps because they give higher interests than the normal bank, and I'm able to shift funds around for investment.
That's great. That's great. If you could time travel, would you go to the past or the future?
Oh, tough question. Well, I want to go to the past so that I
Yeah.
can I can undo the sins of the past so that I can fix the future.
All right. All right. If you could just eat one cuisine for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Oh, I love Italian food.
Oh,
Italian
yeah.
cuisine. Go wrong with it. Yeah. Yeah. Olive oil,
Fantastic.
yeah. Olive oil, cheese, tomatoes. Yeah. I can
Oh,
eat Italian till the end of the world.
that's great to know that. That's a great to know. Charlie, thanks a lot. I wish we had more time to discuss with you and understand more about your experience, the learnings that you have along the way. It's been a great conversation. I learned a lot of things. Like I mentioned, I'm gonna steal some of the words that you have used, some of the phrases that you have used. I'm sure our listeners would also enjoy this as much as I did. So thank you. Thanks a lot for taking your time and joining us here today, Charlie.
Well, thanks for inviting me and well to do this podcast. And I also had fun, by the way. So thank you. Thanks a lot.
Great to hear that. Great to hear that. And before we go, to our listeners, please tune into the Digital Adoption Show across platforms to listen to more interesting, intriguing, and fun conversation with some of the top minds across the digital space. We are available on Apple, Spotify, Google, and YouTube. Whether you are at home or on the go, don't miss out on the latest episodes. Thank you again, Charlie, for being part of this episode. We really had a fun time and we wish you all the best. I'm your host, Nabras, signing off. Thank you.